Hello, and welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. On today's episode, I'd like to discuss a recent practice hike I took, getting ready for my Ocean to Lake Trail hike later in this month, February 2020. I had recorded several portions and videos out on the practice hike I took. However, due to the wind that day and the weather conditions, most of my videos came out unusable with too much wind noise and feedback using this camera. I did not have a separate mic plugged in or a mic muff. Therefore, a lot of the videos are unusable. So I'm just going to do a really brief synopsis and show some of the equipment that I tried out on this hike. However, it's not necessarily stuff I'm going to use going forward while hiking, but I did try it out. So about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, right before I left for training, and then I was out for basically very busy at work for like a week or two, and I didn't get my video out, I decided to take a practice hike along a canal that is in the edge of civilization along with the Everglades. And this hike, was thinking about doing 30 miles. Sounds ambitious when you're sitting at home and not mapping out mileage, but I ended up doing 20 miles. And that really was probably enough for me. My feet definitely felt it that day. The land is mostly flat, and I didn't get wet because I was walking on a levee, and then there was a lot of concrete later on because it's hard to find 20-mile paths anywhere. So I ended up hiking on a levee, which is mostly dirt and crushed rock, and then onto concrete paths through some urban areas to get back to where I had started from. And I did kind of cheat in the middle of my hike, because I did get picked up and ferried about 4.5 miles down the road, where I then picked up my hike and continued walking. So I sat down for maybe 10 minutes or so, I guess you want to call it a break. And then when I got dropped off, I went into a store and I was able to buy some food and some other drinks beside water. I packed all my water with me. And for this hike, I tried some new equipment, smaller pack, just to go out on the trail light. And I came across a brand that's well known to, I guess, runners, but not being a runner, I don't know these. And it's called Nathan is the thing. And I bought this little small pack. I believe it's a 10 liter or 12 liter. This pack is a Nathan Trail 12 liter pack. And they're a little pricey, but not too bad. Has a lot of zippers and pockets. Good to keep your, in this case, I was able to put my GPS in one, which I did carry with me, into this pocket, so I can stop using a carabiner which makes it jiggle around, and unfortunately sometimes it's too stressful for some of these clips and it actually rips them. The problem is it's in a pocket, you have to get it out, but I can save some weight by getting rid of the carabiner. It's probably about an ounce or so. So in the future I'm going to probably do that on my actual pack when I hike. So I'm using this as a training pack and to try out some stuff, and also for an event that I'm looking at doing, which I'm not ready to announce yet because I don't know if it's going to take place or not. I'm still waiting to find out, and I won't know that for several weeks. So, and I did use a bladder, Nathan. It came with a bladder, so it's kind of cost effective. I have one from Sawyer, I believe, but this one was actually pretty good. I do like it. It's got a little different delivery method, but it worked really well. And this is a little bit warm. It's not that heavy. It's extremely light. It feels kind of small. If you're used to wearing a regular pack, this feels like a baby pack, like a bib on your back. So, and I think the pockets really could be designed a lot better. Coming from a backpacking world, I think this has a lot of room to grow. But for a backpacking person, I guess, all I need to carry really was, I did carry an extra pair of socks, which I never changed, which I probably could have or should have if I took a break. and really I just carried some rain gear and water, and that was it. So my pack was probably pretty light. I'm sure it wasn't over 4 to 5 pounds, maybe 6 pounds at the most. I didn't really carry any food. I just carried basically that. One of the things that I'm really trying out is this, I guess you could call it a bracket, and this is made for a camera, and this plate goes on the bottom of your camera, and this holds it fast so that when you're wearing it, you can pull the camera in one motion out and use it. So it's always handy rather than carrying it somewhere. When you first use this, it feels very awkward because the pack is so small, and this feels like it's riding so high, and you can feel the weight of the camera. My camera is a little bit heavier. It's just under a pound. It's probably like 0.8 of a pound, whereas the camera I had before was like half a pound. This one has a little bit more features on it, and it has a lens, whereas the other one is just an Instamatic point and shoot. But I gotta say, I grew very quickly accustomed and used to the weight, and I actually do like this device, and I found it very easy, where I could, with just one hand, push this red button and pull the camera out, and then, you know, same thing, put it back in, and with just a couple of times of using it, your skill level, the learning curve is really not that steep on this, and I actually found it quite comfortable to walk with it. Obviously I wasn't climbing up any technical trails and bouncing around a lot, but you know, it's right in front of you, so I think it's fairly protected. The camera is generally going to be in front of you and you can see it. Also, with the lens pointing down, I believe that it's probably a little protected from getting scratched or damaged inadvertently. And that doesn't mean it can't happen, but this is solid metal and it feels really secure. It clamps on. I didn't have any problem with it sliding or moving. I did put it down lower. Unfortunately, it does kind of make this pocket almost impossible or useless to use when the camera's on there. But if I had something that I probably didn't need but I wanted to have, like I put my money in my wallet parts in here, because I'm not generally going to get those. I'm not going to need those. If I do, it's only when I stop, and then I'm deliberately going in this pocket. So I would probably look to put something like, this is a pocket I'm not going to use. So if I'm going to put stuff in here, like keys, stuff that I'm not going to go in there very often, I can't lose. So once this pocket's zippered, I know I don't have to have it taken off. And like I said, it feels kind of small, and it's weird when you first use it because it's so small. But I grew pretty quickly accustomed to it, and having the camera hang right here, I really like. Now I'm going to transfer this to my Z-Packs Arc Blast for my next hike, and I'm planning on taking this camera that I'm using to record this on my hike to document what's going on. I might bring a little tripod as well. So that was really the most new equipment. That and this, of course, trail runner bag that I chose to test out during this little practice hike. And it went fairly well. Like I said, I did 10 miles. I mean, probably pretty quick, probably within 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And I did the whole 20-mile hike probably in 6 hours or so. One of the things I like about some of the equipment I bought, like my new watch, my Garmin Instinct watch, is that it's GPS based. It keeps accurate records of when I walk, because it's GPS now and not just based on steps, which is really unreliable. Even if you calibrate it, it's not as reliable. And I like the fact that it can link up to my phone, and I can have an accurate, not only a map of where I've gone, but I can also, I have it set for each mile, so it does like a lap split. So each mile I know my pace, and it vibrates when I walk a mile, and I can see the speed or the time it took to do that 1 mile lap or 1 mile distance. So I'm able to see how I'm doing overall in terms of, am I slowing down over several miles? Did a section of the trail that was maybe more harder or more strenuous take me longer? So what my speed's doing over the course of the day and not just total. So the more information I have, does it make a big difference really in my hiking? No, not really. But sometimes in training or just in general, you might want to see, that was a really hard section, what did I do? And I can use that as a guide for when I do other trails and other hikes, that I know, okay, when I reach a part of the trail that's a little more strenuous, my speed slows down from, let's say, 2 miles an hour to 1 mile an hour, or 1.2 miles an hour. And that helps me with planning purposes in the future. Helps me dial in what's a realistic expectation of my speed and distance for a day might be. So on this particular day, it says I walked 45,000 plus steps, but I walked 20.14 miles in that exercise. So, and it took me 6 hours and 8 minutes to do that. So that's a really good gauge for me, because I knew, and it breaks it down. So I know my pace averages out to 18 minutes a mile. So I can pretty much predict that if I'm going on relatively flat or easy ground with very near level conditions, with very little rise or descent, that I can plan on doing 3 miles an hour. And obviously that'll change as the elevation changes and the terrain changes. But for a lot of what I'm doing down here in Florida on this trail, there's not a lot of elevation change. The variable right there is the type of terrain I'm on, because there is areas that are possibly wet or swampy, which I expect to slow me down. And there are some areas that are like sandy, and I expect those will slow me down. But if I can get onto a levee or a canal or just a dirt path that's pretty level, I know that I can predict that I should probably be able to do close to 3 miles an hour. So even if I have to slow down a little bit, doing 2 miles an hour, that helps me in my planning. So I know that then if I get up at, let's say 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want to hike till 4 in the afternoon, that's 8 hours. If I can keep up to 3 miles an hour, that's 24 miles a day. That might be a little ambitious, maybe breaking an hour for lunch or something. But if I'm going to go walking, and my goal is to do, like it is presently for each of these days, my goal is to do 15 miles, and the last day being 20-something miles, because it's a 63-mile trail roughly. And I have my campsites pretty much spread out and selected based on a 15-mile day. The first day is going to be 14 point something. The second day is going to be coming to mile marker 30. So that works out to 15 miles a day. So if I can do 7 hours of walking, I can easily do 15 miles, because even if I hit some slower parts and it slows me down, I know that I'm capable of doing at least 2 miles per hour, right? Because I can usually do 3, but let's say I plan for 2 miles an hour, because there's going to be some areas that are harder than others. Well, 8 hours of walking at 2 miles an hour, I should be able to do 16 miles. And I'm only looking at doing 15. So I have a little extra room in there. So it's not an exact science, because every trail is a little different. The weather conditions might be different here. I don't know if the weather's going to be hot, or I don't know if it's going to be cold. There's no way of knowing. When I went out the other day, it was very, very windy, much windier than I would have normally predicted for down here in Florida. I think it was unseasonably windy, and it was also a little cooler than usual. And I'm hoping for cool weather, because it gets rid of the bugs that are down here. I don't know how the bugs condition is going to be, or what else is going to be going on weather-wise, but it's supposed to be the dry season, so hopefully the trail will dry out, and there'll be little to no water on the trail, so that I won't have to get wet as much. I've heard in past years, looking through journals and stuff, that it could be as high as your waist in some areas, flooded with water, and it could be totally dry. But on average, it's usually, ankle to calf deep in several places. But there'll be numerous places where it'll be totally above water and dry. I'm really looking forward to it, but there is some trepidation, because I'm a little concerned about some of the native animals down there, specifically snakes and crocodiles or gators. And I've been told to move out of your way, so I'm banking on that. You do have to use some care going to get water. You don't want to lean over a canal bank and look like a small animal, because if there is a gator there, it will come up and try and get you or take you. So you have to be careful. So I'm modifying some of the water that I'm going to, retrieval methods. Most likely I'll probably use some sort of vessel, like a water bottle or something on a string, and throw it in the water. So if a gator really wants it, he can have my water bottle and string, but he won't get me. So that's really it for now. I'm probably not going to get a chance due to work and other commitments to get back down to South Florida to do a practice hike, but I happened to be able to get some time, and I was in the area that I could do a practice hike it was the end of January. So I was able to do a little practice hike for a couple hours and get that conditioning done. I felt good. It was easy walking. Didn't really feel like it was strenuous. I was probably more bored than anything else. I kept myself busy by doing obviously the video, and something that I'm trying out now that I usually don't do is I'm actually using a pair of headphones, and I was listening to a book on tape or an audio book, which I've never really done before. I usually like to listen to what's going on around me and check out the sites, but it did make the time go by. It gave me something to distract my mind while I mindlessly continue walking. So I'm probably going to do that more in the future. Download a couple more books or podcasts and attempt to probably continue to hike with a pair of headphones and listen to some books on tape rather than maybe a podcast as well. So that's all I've got for this one. It's going to be a short one. I apologize. I'm hoping to do the trail very shortly in the next couple of weeks. I'm just getting my final team together, so to say. We're back up to 5 people that have expressed interest in going. One of my sons, he's going to be able to come and join us. So I'm looking forward to that. My other son, unfortunately, is not able to go due to work. But I'm looking forward to spending a couple of days with some good people on the trail and get some hiking done. We're going to be pushing miles. We're looking at doing 15 miles for the first 3 days and 20 miles for the second day. And that'll take us to roughly 63 miles, averages out, over the 4 days. And for some of the people I'm going with, and myself included, they're committed to being back to work by a certain date. So it's pretty much we're going to push on and do it in 4 days. That's all I really have for now. If you like this episode, I know it was a little brief. There's not much substance in here, but if you like what you see, please leave a comment below. If you like it, subscribe if you feel inclined to do so, and definitely leave a comment below. Thank you so much. Till we meet again.
So since I mentioned the bracket that I was using to hold my camera, I thought it would be a little better to explain it in greater detail. So what I've done here is I've included the camera as it stands with the bracket. So this bracket I bought off Amazon. There are several companies that make them. There are many companies that make them. They range in price depending on how much you want to spend. This one was about $35, $36. It's made of aluminum, so it's lightweight, but it's solid. It's one piece, so I felt it was strong. Had several good ratings, so I decided to give it a try. I'll put the link in the show notes so that you can, if you feel like you want to look into it or perhaps get one, you can follow up on it. There are some other brands that are probably 2 or 3 times the price that I've seen. Also, very well known brand, but I didn't want to spend the money. I didn't know if it would be something I would like long term. But like I said, it's fairly easy to use, and I very quickly became comfortable with the weight. You can feel it a little bit. I'm not used to wearing it. I just put it on for this video, but very, very simple. I like the fact that it has a red button, and even with one hand, you can see I can pull it out and then use my camera, take a picture, and then quickly put it back in. And it's secure. It's not going to come out. It won't fall out even if I turn upside down or I trip or fall. And like I said, I believe that with the lens pointed down, it's protected from getting scratched or damaged in any way, but it's fairly simple and easy to use. So I felt like this was a good product, and I'm going to try it on the trail when I take it out on the Oceans Lake Trail. And all you have is the bracket portion, and there's a very small bracket that screws into the hole like you would on a tripod and takes the place. And that's it. So I'll put the link in below just so that you can see what it is I bought, and if you're interested, you can give it a try. And that'll take you to many other brands as well. So as you can see, with this camera, which is a little larger than point and shoot camera, but not quite as large as a lot of DSLR cameras, as you can see, it holds it quite steady and it's comfortable. And since it's right in front of you, I think there's less chance that I'll bump into something, and you just have to be a little careful, probably a brush going by. But other than that, it's pretty intuitive and simple to use. I'll edit that out. I don't know why I say sorry when I'm recording to myself.